Chapter 2 of Frederick Wilhelmsen's book, Man's Knowledge of Reality, discusses the Cartesian origin of the critical problem. Descartes begins with two elements, universal doubt and a universal method. While Aristotle and others would use different methods suited to the different objects of study, Descartes proposes a single method for all objects. This method is drawn from the powers and limits of the human mind, which is known before any other object. Descartes subjects all of his knowledge to a universal doubt pending test by the method. Because his prior knowledge is a jumbled mix of true and false, certain and uncertain, it is vital that he leave no knowledge claim immune from this initial doubt. Only claims that endure the test of the method can be accepted. The method itself has three elements: good sense, logical principles, and mathematical methods. The first is the natural reasoning capacity inherent and equal in all men. It requires no education or training to use. Scholastic logic does not add to good sense, but organizes and systematizes its operations. Despite this, it was evident to Descartes that the combination of the two has failed to produce certainty. Thus, there is a need for the methods of mathematics. The first moment of the Cartesian method is an act of intuition. The mind first clears itself of all sensation and imagination, and works to grasp an idea in its simplest form. By intuition, the mind grasps the analyzed idea as clear and distinct. The clarity of the idea includes both the object intuited and the act of intuiting it. For this reason, the act of intuition requires a clear and focused mind. A mind distracted by the senses cannot grasp its ideas with sufficient clarity. Distinctness is the negative side of clarity. An idea is clear by being evidently itself and grasped as such. An idea is distinct by being clearly demarcated from all ideas that are not itself. After intuiting clear and distinct ideas, the mind proceeds to the second moment, deducing from these ideas whatever is implicit in them. By this process, the mind acquires a stock of ideas that are immune from the general doubt with which it began. The Cartesian method requires us to go from thought to things. This is because the content of a thing's idea simply is its full intelligibility. There is nothing true about a thing that is not contained in the idea of the thing. So, to grasp a thing's clear and distinct idea is to know all that can be known about that thing. However, mathematical objects on which this method is modeled do not contain their existence within their idea. The idea of a triangle does not require the existence of real triangles. As a result, we are not only capable of doubting what we seem to know, we are capable of doubting the reality of all things. Since we cannot escape this doubt, we must raise it to the level of a methodical principle. Over time, Cartesian methodical doubt becomes the critical problem. Rather than beginning with a fact or an intuition of being, philosophy begins with the overcoming of doubt. This brings us to the familiar territory of Descartes' Meditations 1 and 2. After throwing a blanket of universal doubt over all knowledge claims, Descartes rescues them one by one, first the self, known as a thinking thing, then God, known as a perfect being. These two ideas, once grasped in their clarity and distinctness, cannot be doubted. Their objects must be real. The mind also finds itself the passive recipient of ideas, seemingly from the senses. If these ideas were not as they seem, if they were not caused by really existing material things, then God would be a deceiver. But deception is incompatible with God's perfection, which we clearly and distinctly grasp. Therefore, extended material objects do exist and are the cause of our sensations of them. In refounding philosophy like this, Descartes began what would become the critical problem. For him, philosophy must begin in the mind and proceed from the mind to things. The first object of knowledge is the mind's own existence as a thinking and knowing thing. Everything else it knows depends on this knowledge. In a very real sense, everything I know depends on what I know about my process of knowing. And this raises the critical problem. How can I move from my initial certainty of my own mind to an equal certainty about things outside my mind? Wilhelmsen ends this chapter by noting that philosophers may accept or reject the critical problem. To accept it is to be a critical philosopher who attempts to answer this challenge in one of a variety of ways. But a philosopher may, like Wilhelmsen and Gilson, reject the critical problem entirely and be a non-critical philosopher. Such a philosopher would not begin with the human mind's knowledge of its own knowing processes, but rather with things themselves, with being. Wilhelmsen calls this school of thought metaphysical realism, and it is the subject of Chapter 3. That's my quick overview of Chapter 2 of Man's Knowledge of Reality. Thanks for watching today. Goodbye.